In this video for today, we're going to be installing an Impaktech crash cage for the Z650 and or the Ninja 650. I don't know, bro. It says that the crash cage fits both of the bikes. The reason for the video is that there's no other video out there. So we're about to figure it out together. Also, by the way, don't hit the subscribe button thinking that I'm going to be posting more of these. I'm a gaming channel. Full disclaimer here. That isn't the face of someone who knows what he's doing. Let that nigga know! Prime example, the nigga recorded everything that he did vertically. So if you fuck up your bike, don't blame me. I'm just showing you the steps. Alright, so here's the crash cage itself. This is everything that comes in a box. I will go through each part individually just so you can visually match up your parts. Here's part one. You have a spacer. You also have a broken washer, and then you also have, this one. I think this is the smaller version. So yeah, you should have a smaller version and a slightly longer version. Here's part two. You have a longer spacer, another broken washer on this longer bolt. Part three is actually going to be the engine bolt. I know this because this is the exact same one that I have for my crash cage. Anyways, yeah, so you have one broken washer. You also have one full unbroken washer, and then you have these two ends. Easy peasy, 4 screws. Those specific screws actually connects to these spacers right here. These are technically supposed to be like your frame sliders if, in fact, you drop the cage. Impaktech do sell these individually. Apparently, if you have a really bad crash, these are only really for one use only. So do with that what you will. For the main components, it's 3 parts, the left side and the right side. I really don't know which is which, so we're just gonna make it work. And we also have the under cage. So yep, here is the bike. Crash cage is really going to go on at that area or whatever. I'm pretty sure if you look it up this video, you know what a crash cage is. I would think. If you don't, well, I guess you're learning. Anyway, so I don't necessarily know if we have to put on the left or right side, but we'll figure that out once I cut the fairings. Now, I don't have any tools to actually cut a fairing, but I do have a knife. So that's what we'll be working with today. So basically the plan is I'm going to take this part off. Hopefully it's only this part. Obviously I got to take this part off to take this part off, but I'll take this part off, cut this part, probably where this is at, expose the bolt cover, and then I'll come back. If you don't know how to take the seat off, put your key, slot, seat comes off. The reason why we took the seat off is we just wanted to make sure that this fairing isn't also attached to this fairing on its B side. I know in my bike, the ZX6R, that part is also clipped in to that part on its B side. So just to make sure it wasn't the same case here, that's why. I don't necessarily know what's inside the Z650. However, for this Ninja 650, it's a little tool case that came with it. And inside of it, I don't know necessarily the size, but it is an Allen wrench. And that's the Allen wrench that we'll be using to take off the fairings. Literally just took off the screw. Make sure you keep track of this because this do have a washer on it in itself. I think you can see it there. So we're going to take off this one and maybe this one if we need to. All right, so we just took that screw off. I really think it's really just that one. So we just took this screw off. I believe this is I don't know necessarily what it's actually called, but this is basically just like a push pop, not a push pop, but it comes off like that. All right, so I finally got it off. These are the 3 pins that I was referring to. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, once you grab the pins out, you want to make sure you're kind of going this way so you don't break anything, all right? Also, I did use this to take this off. You don't really need it, bro. If you want it, it's called a trim stick. Look up trim stick. You can buy it online, I guess, I suppose, if you really want to. If you're down bad like that. But it just helped me get into areas that I couldn't necessarily get in with my hands. So now with this piece off, I want to use the Allen wrench again to get this piece off, and I hope everything else just comes off, right? No. Okay, so got this part off, but this part as well. There's also 3 more pins, one here, here, and here. Now the only issue is that I was really hoping that I didn't have to take this off, but it's looking like I'm going to have to. I'm gonna try my nigga way first by just cutting this on the bike. That's probably dumb as hell. If it was my bike, I'd probably do it, but since it's hers, I'll do it the long way. You're gonna need to take this off, and this off, just so you could get enough room to get the little Allen screw. It's attached like right up here. Be careful because it's the little Allen screw, but then it also has a little washer on it. All right, once you got the 3 screws off, you just want to start basically pulling shit apart, bro. This right here, this doesn't have any screws, but it does have like a clip on. If you can get your like a wedge, I guess like a flathead screwdriver, that'll work too. Like I said, I got the trim stick, so all I have to do really is just slide it through for the most part, and it kind of comes off in itself, right? You could do it by hand. I did it by hand before I even used my trim stick. I had to learn, but I did it by hand before. It's not that hard. So yeah, so now this is the bolt that you need to get out. That right there, just keep in mind, has a little washer. But yeah, so now that it is visible, we're gonna go ahead and get that out. Alrighty, success. All right, so we ended up taking this off of here. We took it inside. Since we didn't have any actual hard tools to just, straight cut through the plastic, we ended up heating our knives up, basically just burning through the plastic. It is what it is. It worked. It worked. So now all that's left to do is just install it back to the bike to make sure that this is visible. If it's not, take it back off and redo it again. Just so you guys are aware, this, wow, my whole hand was in the way. So just so you're aware, that is the hole that the Allen wrench screw is supposed to go into. Just make sure that you use the same screw that was in here. Once again, it is a small Allen wrench screw with a black washer on it. Because my girl has smaller hands than me, this is how she did the other side. She basically, put it in the part first. And then with me spacing out the other 2 fairings, she just placed it in there. Now that she got that on, all we have to do for real is just put everything back in the reverse order that we took it off. And I think the only other thing that we will have to do in regards to like prepping the bike before installation is you have to cut like some part down here. But we're gonna put the cage on first just to see where I have to do that at. Instead of just breaking it off, there was screw holes that you can see right there. There's screw holes that you can really just unscrew by taking this part off, expanding it, and then unscrewing it and taking that bottom part off on both sides. So for the sake of me treating you guys how I want to be treated, putting it in reverse order, the first part that we put back in was the last thing that we took off, which was this part, officially cut. Then we put this piece back on, so we screwed that in. Once we got this fitted in place for the most part, we screwed this screw back in, we screwed this screw back in, and we screwed this screw back in. These 2 screws should be longer than this screw and basically all your other screws. None of them had washers, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm gonna push these in its little slots before I put the last piece on. So now I'll put the hose, put those holes in the slot, made sure that my hole lined up, double checking that. So we're gonna slide it in, push the pins in, make sure the holes line up, then put the screws in. I have 3 screws left. The black one is for that hole, and either one of these 2 silver screws is for that hole. You should have an extra hole left because one of those went into part of the part that we cut off. So got the toolbox out the car. In the crash cage video for the ZX6R, it said that we needed 2 ratchets, a ratchet extension, a 9/16 socket, 14mm socket, and a 17mm socket. You don't need the 17 mil, but you do need a 15 instead. We're going to focus on the right side of the bike first. I think all we really need is a ratchet, the extension, and a 14mm, just so we can start breaking the engine bolts loose. You do want to pre-install the crossbar with the crash cage. This is a 9/16 bolt. Once I got it started, I used a 9/16 socket to make sure I had it tightened down. So now that we have the crash cage sub-assembled, we're going to go ahead and break this motor mount bolt. It's a 14mm socket. You just want to loosen it. Don't take it out all the way because you want to do a quick swap with your crash cage. I broke the motor mount bolt loose. So now before I do a quick swap, I'm going to put this motor mount bolt in the crash cage so I can just pull and go. So now with this, we're just gonna go ahead and take this off. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this off. Fuck. Whatever, bro. I don't even think I need that. I hope I don't. So we took the spacer off of the bolt. We're gonna put this side with the washer in, let it fall all the way through, and then we're gonna put the spacer on the outside. And that's how we're going to mount it. All right, so you know that nut that fell? Turns out I actually need that. So the reason why I need that is that the bolt that we're breaking off, that is where the nut is going to go. Okay, so now we got our oil thread. I've kind of got the crash cage in place. However, we need to go ahead and put our R thread into the rear side. We took out all of the spacers. We're leaving on the washer and the nut itself. We're going to go ahead and put one of the spacers in the hose so it looks like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and place this through the crash cage, the rear crash cage, and then we're going to fit it to the hole. So I don't know if it was just my case specifically, but the all thread was actually longer than expected. So when you install the crash cage, there is going to be one side that's going to have a bolt all the way extruded, because on one side there's a nylon stop nut and on the other side it's an open end nut. So to save yourself a headache, try to test it out first, see how it looks, and then you'll know where to cut the all thread. All right, so for disclosure, for the Ninja, you need a 14 for this and a 15 for the rear. Also, I think you might need to cut this too. I'm not going to, because I don't care enough. If you don't want to cut it, you can get it in. If you have two people, no shot if you're by yourself. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But we got that in. We're gonna go ahead and tighten the rear side down. Then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side for the most part. If I ended up taking the screw out for this, I'm gonna end up just breaking it off, only because the crossbar is gonna be in the way. All right, well, we did one side, so now it's time to do the other. Do it look like I'm having a fun time? So now that we got the right side taken care of, we're gonna move on to the left side. It's the same process. So yeah, make sure you take the spacer off. We're gonna keep the broken washer on. Then we're gonna go ahead, drop it down, let it fall all the way through, put the spacer inside of the crash cage, and then we're going to install it. All right, so for the left side of the bike, you can see where the rear of the crash cage is going to go. You also see the crossbar. You also see the part that I'm going to end up cutting and or breaking. But this is also the motor mount bolt that we're going to end up breaking loose. All right, same process as the last time. Go ahead and break it loose first. Make sure it's almost off. Prep your crash cage and do a quick swap of it. Now that I broke that bolt loose, I'm going to go ahead and take the nut off that side. I just want to make sure everything is organized, so all I have to do is just go ahead and just put stuff on. All right, so now everything on this side is loosely fitted. I think this is the part where you're going to actually need your second ratchet, so I'm going to have her go on the other side. I guess basically hold the screws down. So we put the crash cage on. The only thing that we have to do now is the frame sliders. So all it is just rubber pieces that inserts, and then you just screw it in. All you have to do is just match the hole up together. All right, once the hole is matched in, all you have to do is just run the screw. So these are the screws that you want to use. So the socket that I'm using is a 3/8 socket. You just want to go ahead and just screw it in. For an overall review, fucking tedious for sure. Probably a hell of a lot easier if I have the tools to cut it and whatnot. Since I did not have the time or didn't want to take the time to do the proper steps, I kind of could have made it harder on myself. The one thing I do think is unavoidable, this right here, this looks absolutely atrocious. If you look at mine, this is long enough to hide it. I don't really have that issue. They really made the tube small. I would say I'm glad that they kind of made it small, only because for my ZXXR, I really had a tough time putting a washer in. If they was going to sell me this part, they should have gave me a smaller bolt. It is what it is. I'm not complaining too much. At least she got a crash cage. She got what she wanted. Remember how I said that I was going to cut it? I bought a Dremel. So I really just marked where I was going to cut it. I'm going to go down probably like a few more notches just so it looks better. So we unscrewed the side with the nylon nut just to pull it out a little bit. We're going to cut it probably like, I'll say 4 threads up. After we cut it, easy peasy. This is how it looks, man. This is how it looks. But for the most part, this is the installation process. At least you'll know what you'll be in for, and hopefully I hope this video helped you to a certain degree. If you watch this video in entirety and you appreciate it, say thanks, babe, because it's her fault. So gonna be happy, gonna be merry, and I'll see you guys. I won't see you guys because I'm not making another one of these. That's dead as fuck.